There was no escaping The Simpsons in the 1990s, and Acclaim made sure of it for home computers and consoles. It was shoved in your face harder than someone arguing on Twitter saying how great Brexit is. For the majority, Bart vs the Space Mutants was the first gaming foray into the world of Springfield. But that one's been done more times than The Simpsons are going to X country. So no need here. Averagely bad game, moving on. No, for me, Simpsons didn't have much luck until Hit and Run appeared and remains a cult hit today. Sure, many argue that the 91 Konami arcade was great, and for me, nostalgia goggles agree, but going back, you can see just how unfair a pocket money drain it was, which was the whole point of the arcades. Massive cash in, pretty looking game. But anyway, there's loads of cock-awful Simpsons games, including this absolute misery. Camp Deadly. No, we're not treading down the crappy games road today, more focusing on a game that, sure, it has problems, but it's such a fond memory, I wanted to discuss it in a little bit more depth. The premise of Bart's Nightmare is simple. Bart falls asleep while writing a report. In his dream, all the pages get blown out the window, a flimsy premise for a minigame fest begins. The main hub is called Windy World. Not really sure why, apart from, the wind on the trees, but it's clearly Evergreen Terrace. There's the Simpsons house. Just call it that. It's lip service. The fans want to play Simpsons themed worlds, lands, vistas. It all fits together. Just stick with what you've got. The point here is to seemingly mooch about until report papers appear, sparking off one of several minigames when you jump on it. I always thought that the papers appear at random. I'm still a firm believer in that, but apparently they're triggered when you interact with the various early Simpsons tropes strewn about the screen. There's lots of enemies and hazards here to get in your way, from the head of Jebediah Springfield to Fairy Lisa turning Bart into a frog, all sorts of just quirky randomness. The game quickly becomes a Springfield misfit mascot minefield. Although everything is seemingly chucked in for the sake of it, it kind of all works. Bump into Principal Skinner, and the game dresses Bart in his Sunday church outfit. You are invincible at this point, but you're slower, and you can't do any sort of Bart Simpson moves, like shooting watermelon seeds or bubblegum. Cure this by jumping into a randomly placed mud puddle. Fairy Lisa changes Bart into a frog, and a kiss from this granny changes him back. But out of all the Simpsons characters, I don't know who she is. She sort of cat lady woman, maybe? Just doesn't look like her, where everyone else you can sort of recognise and go, oh, that's Jimbo. Oh, that's Blinky the three-eyed fish. Whatever. Speaking of Jimbo, Lisa also turns him and the bullies into rats, should they catch you. The big no-no for me, though, and this goes for any game ever made, do not have a mechanic that reverses controls. The saxophone music note here does it, and the manual says it makes you moonwalk for that extra sort of 90s vibe, but no, not cool in any game ever. Stop it. It's up there with ice stages or really short timed things. Lives, or hits, whatever you want to call them, are represented by the Z's at the top. Get hit, lose a Z. Fair enough. Lose them all, Bart wakes up, game over. Bart can jump over these sentient mailboxes, sometimes leaving items. Collecting bubblegum that I mentioned previously, you can shoot it at these blue Z's on screen. If they land in this goalpost area at the top of the screen, you can collect a Z, so you get an extra life basically. And in playing this game again, after God knows how long, I just learned you can hold down the button when you shoot your bubblegum and you can move the bubble around the screen. I spent all this time moving the camera left and right with the shoulder buttons to alter the sort of cool parallax scrolling feature it's got, but this method, it just makes the game 1,000 times easier for me. Everyone's least favourite three-eyed fish, Blinky, if you jump over him 3 times, you get a new Z bar when you lose all your health. That's really handy, so make sure you keep an eye out. And that's pretty much all you need to know here, apart from watermelon seeds to shoot at TVs and baddies to make them run off. Onto the report pages. When Bart jumps into one, you get to choose a themed door that represents each minigame, so different colours, different minigame. There's a few different ones in total. The orange door casts Bart as an Indiana Jones type, jumping across stepping stones to reach the page at the end. Standing on one stone makes another rise up, whilst making another one lower somewhere else. So if the stones get too low, they drop, meaning you lose, start it again, or if you lose all your lives, which are represented by collecting eggs, then back to the start, back to the main hub world, do the whole thing again. It adds a little bit of strategy that you have to sort of jump up and down different levels to make things rise, make things fall. There's a few sections where you have to go backwards to make a certain section rise, otherwise you can't get past it. So it's knowing which ones go up, which ones go down. All the while, blue and green devils appear to force Bart into adjacent steps by prodding him, potentially making a fatal mistake. Bart's not defenceless though, he's got his trusty whip, so he can use that as a form of defence. The other hindrance to mention here is the Maggie statue in the background. She'll shoot her dummy at you when you pass. You can force her to shoot it though if you pan the camera to the right. Never knew about that as a kid. It was a much later thing that I learned because these levels were really tricky otherwise trying to dodge those. Grab the report page, there's 2 of these levels, and it's back to the main hub stage. Take to the skies through the blue door as Bartman, everyone's favourite character. Do the Bartman, do the Bartman. Anyway, he's got a trusty slingshot, which you use to fight missiles, Nelson Muntz on a hang glider, for reasons, and a whole host of random boss fights. I say random because who thought you'd fight Sherry and Terry in a hot air balloon, or Barney riding a purple elephant whilst burping and shooting peanuts? It's all a bit bizarre. After fighting dodgy colour palette Smithers a couple of times, it's on to an air battle with Mr. Burns in a biplane to secure those next report papers. The purple door, you take an inexplicable dip into Bart's bloodstream to get the next page. All Bart has to do is pop viruses with a hand pump. Each one killed makes a Smiling Joe fission pop up. Remember when I said that it's got dodgy, tenuous characters? Smiling Joe, everyone. Yeah, great. Anyway, rinse and repeat that. Dead easy. Page is yours. Imagine an actual itchy and scratchy game. Oh, sorry. That happened, didn't it? Imagine an itchy and scratchy game that isn't rubbish. Oh wait, that's not the case here either, is it? Anyway, Yellow Door. It's an episode of Itchy and Scratchy. Bart has to run for his life with hammers and sucker guns and fire extinguishers whilst taking out the, well, I suppose they are a popular duo. Used to love them every time they'd appear on telly. It looks really good, like the graphics really cool, everything. But it is difficult. Don't know why you've got a health bar, because you get one-hitted all the time on this mode. It is insane. Find a sweet spot, hide there, and just spam it. So yeah, you fight, and then you have an argument with the boiler. Green Door, though, always one of my favourites, definitely the most impressive. It sees Bart as a giant Godzilla, Bartzilla character, destroying tanks, helicopters, planes, the scenery. Bart auto walks, so the aim is to use the various sort of buttons on the SNES pad to shoot in the background, shoot in the foreground, shoot on the ground, depending on which plane each vehicle appears on. Step on one of the buildings and that causes the screen to sort of clear of all enemies. After a time of destruction, Bartzilla is shrunken down and a game of crazy climber begins. The idea is to climb up whilst avoiding all the townsfolk chucking all manners of rubbish at you, fall too far below the vertically scrolling screen, and that's the end of the game. So too many hits, start again. Bart also has to avoid a giant mom through Marge, who's also trying to push you off the building. She appears at times to get in the way. Get to the top to witness mighty Homer Kong in all his glory. He looks amazing, before electrocuting him for the report page. And that's pretty much it. Once all 8 pages have been collected, the game ends with the grade Bart gets for the paper pinned to the fridge. So that's your game over screen, basically. But to get the best grades, you have to get a higher score and beat all the minigames. Me, I'm a B+ player, and I'm okay with that. To someone playing this today, they may find it shallow or irritating, just like I do with the follow-up Virtual Bart. But because I grew up with Bart's Nightmare, it was the first SNES game I bought with my own paper round money, it holds a very special place in my gaming heart that 90% of games out there today don't even come close.